The latest arrival in the cheap Chinese ute brigade is here. This is the JAC T9, and in this review I'll tell you what you need to know about it, the pricing, the specs, what it's like to drive, and what the fuel consumption is like, as well as how it handles a load. So stick around, there's a lot to cover, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell, and let's get to it. To start off with, there are two versions of the JAC T9 and they are pretty affordable and you're getting a fair amount of stuff for your money. Look, there are cheaper utes in the market and I'll tell you some great alternatives in the next segment of this video, but let's talk about the two models that are available. They have some kind of strange names. The entry-level one is called Oasis, and it has a fair amount of standard spec for the money. Things like LED lighting, keyless entry, push button start. You've also got 18-inch alloy wheels, a spray-in tub liner, and there's a sports bar. There are off-road steps, and you're getting things like a 10.4-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's also a 7-inch trip computer display, wireless phone charging, adaptive cruise control, heaps of safety spec and tech. And then if you want a few extra features and you can spend a little bit more money, it might be worth considering this one here, which is the Haven grade. Strange names, right? And it does have a higher price point, but you are getting extra stuff for your cash. Things like roof rails, exterior puddle lighting. There's also privacy glass at the rear, auto folding side mirrors. There's an auto dimming rear view mirror, a surround view camera system, heated front seats, power passenger seat adjustment. In that entry-level one, you get power driver's seat as standard, but there's also a USB port in the back, some extra usability, and it gets chrome mirrors, which you might love or maybe not, and it also gets the choice of black or brown for the interior finishing. All right, let's consider some alternatives to this, because there are some really compelling choices in the cheap dual cab ute space. First option I would suggest you take a look at is the GWM Cannon. Now, it has just been updated with a new, more powerful engine, more powerful than this and more powerful than it had before. And it's also got 3.5 ton towing capacity, which this ute doesn't. And it has plenty of great features and it starts at a very, very attractive price point. I'm going to do a review of that one very shortly, so please stay tuned and subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of that review when it comes out, because I think it could be a better choice than this for many people out there. Another option you might want to consider is the KGM SsangYong Musso. That dual cab ute is a Korean made model, so if you don't want Chinese made for whatever reason, that might be worth considering. It's got a long warranty available, it's got a strong diesel engine, plenty of space on the inside and decent payload and towing capability as well. Yeah, 3.5 ton for that one too. And finally, you might be considering something like the LDV T60, which is very, very affordable, but I would suggest maybe it would be worth having a look at an Isuzu D-Max in one of the entry-level grades, because look, you might pay a little bit more, but at least you're getting the Isuzu dealership network that this brand doesn't have yet. You're also getting the reliability that's known for the diesel engines in that Isuzu range. And while you might not get as many features and fun factor, you will get a very strong truck for the cash. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose any of those or something else? Hit me up. Rightio, so let's have a look at this masked machine. It does look like it's wearing a Batman costume to me, but you tell me what you think about the look of it in the comments. It is certainly a strong looking truck and it has plenty of size on its side as well. It's just on 5.3 meters long. I'll put all the dimensions on top of your screen there so you can see for yourself. This is an interestingly proportioned vehicle. It does have quite a long tub, and yes, as standard, you are getting that sports bar and a tub liner at the back as well, a spray-in liner. Let's have a look at the rear of it as well, and I think it could have the world's largest embossed tailgate with a brand on it. That is enormous text, but yes, it's certainly an interesting looking rear end. Now let's have a look in the tub and see what we are dealing with here. And firstly, just listen to this. Yep, it doesn't have any soft opening considerations. It's a heavy tailgate and it will bang down. And as I said, it does come with a spray-in tub liner and that is handy and sturdy and better than a plastic liner, which you get in some other vehicles at this kind of money, because, well, things won't slide around quite as much. I'll do a test with some stuff in the back shortly, but just keep in mind you've got a couple of tie down points, so on the sides at the top there, but not maybe as many as you might need on a daily basis. But you do have that sports bar if you want to attach something to that. I guess you could. Now underneath, let's have a look what we are working with. Yes, you do get a full-size alloy spare wheel, and as you can see, this one does have a tow bar, and I'm going to put the towing specs on your screen now. The brand did upgrade the towing capability, so that could be a reason to consider this ute, but it's still not as good as some of the best in the class. Okay people, let's have a look at the interior, and it is, well, kind of similar to some other utes out there, but it has its own design vibe. I like some elements of it, that's for sure, but there are some other bits that maybe could be better. Let's have a look at it though. So, in front of the driver, there is a 7-inch digital instrument cluster. You can go through some menus on that screen if you want to, using the steering wheel controls. There's one that just changes the design, and it's very flourishy. I don't know why it does that, but hey, you'll make up your own mind which one you like. Use those controls there to interact with the media controls and so forth. There's also voice control if you want to use that. And on this side, there's a cruise control setup, but look, it's kind of bloody hard to see exactly what you're pressing there. I appreciate that it's not piano black, but it's also a little bit hard to see. It might be better at night when those are illuminated. Now, speaking of illumination, you've got your lights and blinkers stalk on that side, you've got your wipers on that side, and let's have a look at this touchscreen media system. So it's a portrait style design screen. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you have to connect up using a USB port. Those ports are down there. It does have a wireless phone charger, so it's sort of at odds with needing a USB, but that's just the way it is. And let's have a look at the controls here. So there's not really a home button on this particular screen, but if you scroll across, then that gives you all of the menus available to you. And you will need to learn this screen to a degree at least. Thankfully, there are still regular old controls for your climate, your fan, and where the air is going. But you do still have to go onto the screen to turn on your recirc or change the aircon settings. But there's that bar there, and it stays there as well, which is good. Now, up above, as I said, there's a number of colorful menu icons and displays, and I can't show you what Apple CarPlay looks like. It looks like every other car, I'm sure. But there is a tire pressure monitoring screen, which is actually pretty handy. You can adjust which measurement you are reading it in as well. And here, the vehicle settings screen is where you will probably spend a little bit of time if you want to turn some things off. In the assistance menu, you can turn off things like your lane keeping assistance, how sensitive your lane keeping is, and a number of other things like your traffic sign recognition, which is one of the annoying things about this car in my opinion. But there are also some smart menus. So if you pull down from the top there, you can turn off DMS, which is your driver monitoring system. That's that little camera over there, which will keep an eye on your eyes and tell you if it thinks you're distracted. I do not like it, I do not, but that's just how it is. These cars these days do have that technology, so if you're not liking that, you might have to buy an older ute instead. And there's a number of other settings on this screen that you can get your head around if you want to. It's a pretty basic system really, but I think that it's perfectly fine in terms of the interactivity. One thing that is not fine about this car's system is the stereo quality. The sound is terrible. One of the worst that I've experienced, let alone in 2025. Now let's look at some of the other elements that you'll probably want to consider. You do have a little tray up the top there. There is no covered section or anything like that. Over here, you won't find any cup holders popping out, which I know is a favorite for some tradies, but there is a little storage box down there, and you've got some controls there, your mirrors and so forth. Really conventional stuff for your windows, which is good. There are bottle holders in the doors, and over here you'll find a decent glove box as well. The seats, I think they're pretty comfortable. They're not the most comfortable, but I would say they are more comfortable than some other cheap utes. Nicely supportive, and in this high grade one you get electric passenger seat adjust. In all, you get electric driver's seat adjust, but without memory settings, so that might be something you want to keep in mind. Here you'll find your control section. So you've got a regular-ish shifter. It does have a park button on the side. You still have to press it in to change gears. You've got your electronic diff lock at the back there. Hill descent control. Demisters are there as well, which is a bonus. And on this side, you've got a drive mode selector. If you want to jump into different drive modes, there are a couple to choose from: normal, sport, and snow, and eco. So I guess if that matters to you, that's handy. Electronic park brake, you've got an auto hold button there. Now, if you're not aware what auto hold is, that will basically stop the car from creeping forwards in traffic. And you've got a very Mitsubishi looking selector there for your four-wheel drive system. There is a pair of cup holders here, one of them shallow for your coffee cup, one of them big for your big energy drink, because that's what people drink when they drive utes. And in here you'll find a covered center console bin, and it has a ventilation section as well, so it will actually keep things cool in there. I like all of that. And above, you don't get any vanity mirrors on the driver's side, but you do on the passenger side. No illumination for them. You get an auto dimming revision mirror, which is a bonus. There's a sunnies holder up there. I know lots of people love those in their utes. And there's some controls up here for your lights, if you want to have them on door lights, or if you just want to turn on your regular lights. Anyway, no sunroof in this high grade version, which might be something that isn't great for everyone, but I'm okay with it. The dark headliner I don't love, but you might be fine with it. You get a grab handle on that side, but not on this side. So there are some considerations here, obviously. There's a grab handle to help yourself in if you want to, but I think it's not too bad in terms of the front seat experience. Maybe lacking a little bit of storage, but let's check out the back seat space and see what it's like. So this seat is set for my driving position. I'm 6 foot tall and I've got room. Actually, a decent amount of room. I've got enough foot space to wiggle, and I've got enough knee room here to have a couple of inches in front of my legs, and headroom is also quite good back here. So that's all good to see. You do have grab handles in the back and a little coat hook if you want to use that for your fancy nights out. You've also got your lights up there. No side lights, but I guess that'll do. And you do have plenty of great storage here. So you've got multi-pocket pockets on the backs of the seats, handy for devices and loose items. There's also directional air vents. And let me show you down here, there's something pretty handy. So you've got USB A and C ports, and also a power point, which is a bloody bonus, I reckon. So you can keep your laptop or some tools charged up if you need to. Now let's have a look at the space in this back seat. You do have enough space here for 3 adults to sit comfortably, I would say. And if you are planning to fit kiddos in the back, there are ISOFIX points in the window seats, and they are through these loops at the top where you can top tether to that center point right there. But interestingly, ANCAP recommends that you do not fit a child seat in the middle seat of this ute, because that top tether is designed for side strapping your kids in. So just keep that in mind, I'd say. There's a flip down armrest with cup holders, and I think it's a pretty good space more generally. Bottle holders in the doors. Again, the room and the comfort and the seat comfort is actually pretty good too. I'll also just call out that you can lift up the seat base on this side. So if I pull this little tab, you can lift that up. There's a little bit of extra storage space underneath there. And if you are trying to lower the seat back down, well, you can do that by pulling this tab up here, and it'll drop right down like that. So that might be handy if you need some extra covered storage. But yeah, there's a little bit of storage down behind there too, if you want to put some secret stuff. Under the bonnet of the JAC T9 is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, and it has, well, comparatively modest figures. So the power and torque outputs are 125 kilowatts and 410 newton meters. That is on the low side for a ute of this size, but it comes as standard with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it is 4-wheel drive exclusively. So that might be good to know. It has a proper transfer case with 2H, 4H and 4L, and there's an electronic diff lock as well. As I mentioned, the towing capacity is a little lower than some of the other models out there, but let's go drive it and see what it's like. Okay, does this ute do anything different to the other cheap utes in the segment? Not really. It doesn't change the game in terms of the drive experience. It's pretty predictable and fairly similar to some of those other dual cabs that you might be considering if you're thinking about spending this kind of money. That's no bad thing. It's just maybe not the most impressive vehicle for the cash. I'm fine with the drive experience though. I mean, the biggest issue for a lot of buyers out there will probably be the lower power and torque outputs than some of the rivals, especially considering GWM has just bumped its engine capacity and outputs up a bit. And also the towing capacity might be something you have to keep in mind as well. But honestly, I wouldn't want to be putting 3.5 tons behind this anyway. 3.2 would probably be more than enough in my opinion. And I think this is otherwise, well, okay to drive. The 2-litre engine is a bit gruff and a bit noisy, but that's to be expected. And I think that maybe the responsiveness of the powertrain is okay. It's certainly not fast, but it builds pace relatively well once you're on the move. From a standstill, it can be a little bit laggy, again, to be expected, but I am pretty happy with this 8-speed automatic transmission. For on-road driving, it seems to be pretty engaged with the situation, and it certainly feels like it's up to the task, and the logic doesn't seem too bad either. So if I just take away from a standstill, there we go, there's the lag, and it will shift pretty quickly up through the gears. So if you don't like gearboxes that are busy feeling, you might not like this one. And especially when you do some downhill coasting, if you're on the brakes a little bit, it will be engine braking pretty regularly and it will downshift very, very regularly. So just keep that in mind if you are, well, maybe a little bit hesitant about having so many gears in your diesel ute. But it's maybe not as busy still as some of the dual cabs out there with 10-speed autos, for instance. But yeah, you can probably hear it sort of shifts down without probably needing to in some situations. And it'll shift up quickly as well to try and basically keep you in the torque happy spot of this engine. And I think it's a pretty good powertrain more generally. The steering is another thing I'm fine with. I think it responds predictably and it feels pretty fine. It's not fun to drive, but I don't think it needs to be for a dual cab ute like this. It does have a pretty big turning circle though. That's one thing I will call out about it. And the gear selector can be a little bit finicky to engage a gear as well. But once you're on it, you're on it. And there's a really good surround view camera system in this high grade version to help you see around the vehicle a little bit more easily, which is another bonus for the safety stuff. But again, like I said, some of the safety stuff might not be to all tastes. Now there's other elements to the drive experience, as I've mentioned, like the driver monitoring camera system. If you don't like that sort of thing, you won't like this one. And if you don't like speed sign bing bong technology, again, might be something you need to keep in mind on the test drive. And while it might be a little bit terse in terms of the ride comfort in some situations, especially if you hit sharp edged bumps, I think that you have to be mindful and realistic about it. It has 1,000 kilo payload, this vehicle, so yeah, it should be able to cope with a big load in the back, but it's also a little bit firm because of that. And if you aren't going to be loaded up all the time, that might be something you want to keep in mind. But most people, I would suspect, who are going to buy this ute are tradies, or they might be business owners who are buying it for their tradies. So let's go see what it's like with a load in the tub. Okay, so I'm playing landscaper or bricklayer or tiler or whatever. I've got just on 1/2 ton of sandbags in the back of this ute now. So I wanted to see what it was like with that kind of weight on board. That's what a lot of tradies run around with. If they're plumbers, painters, whatever it may be, they've usually got a lot of stuff in the tub, and I wanted to see what it was like in that instance. So just take away from a standstill here. Got hill hold assist, which is good. And while there is just a little bit of shudder through the powertrain when you take off, it gets along pretty well. Still, with this kind of weight on board, remember it's got a ton of payload, like literally 1,000 kilo payload. So with that and me, we're not even close, I promise. I'm not that heavy. But yeah, it does have a pretty decent payload for this type of truck. Now we're going over some speed humps here. and there's a bit of rear end bounciness to it. It's not too bad though, certainly not as bad as some other utes I've driven. It does have a generally firm feeling suspension, but let's go over this next bump and see how it goes. Yeah, it's got a firmness to it, but it's not uncomfortable and not unexpected in terms of the way that it behaves over bumpy sections. And with a load in the back, it certainly feels just a little softer, which is good, I would say. And as I've mentioned, if you're a tradie, you're probably going to run with that sort of weight in the back most of the time. Now, if you're wondering about towing tests, well, I haven't had a chance this time around. This is only a short loan of this vehicle, but if you're interested in a towing test of the JAC Ute, make sure you leave a comment below, and I assure you the people from JAC will be reading those comments. So have your say, and I'd love to hear what you want as well. Off-road, I didn't do that either, because, well, there's plenty of others out there who have done off-road testing in this ute, including the excellent Evan Spence, who's a good mate of mine from Chasing Cars. He put this thing through its paces, and if you want to see that, well, I'll put a link in the description below. Another thing about this ute is that it does... Shut up! Another thing about this ute is that it does have four-wheel disc brakes. So that means that if you need to come to a stop a little quickly, well, it will do that pretty easily compared to some of those other utes out there that still have drums at the back. I think this offers just a little bit more peace of mind, just a little bit. And when it comes to the braking response, honestly, I think it's perfectly fine. The pedal has a good progression to it, and it's bitey when you need it to be. Okay, let's talk fuel consumption. That might be consideration for you or your business, and I'll put some numbers on your screen so you can see the expectations, which is the official combined cycle fuel consumption number that's on screen now, and the reality, which is what I saw over my testing in this ute. I still think it's a respectable number, and it has a decent 76 litre fuel tank capacity as well. Of course, it runs on diesel, so you should get pretty decent range out of a full tank. You might have seen the ad campaign around this vehicle being Australia's safest ute, and that's because it achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating against the 2024 criteria. So it has all the tech and spec to achieve that rating, including some of the annoying stuff which you might not like. But let's talk about what it has. There's autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and junction detection. You've got adaptive cruise control. There's a traffic jam assist feature, so it will stop, start and steer for you in some situations if you want it to, and obey the speed limits as well. And the speed limit recognition system here, well, that might give you the shits, I have to be honest about it. And so might the driver monitoring camera system. But yeah, I'm guessing you will make up your own mind when you go for a test drive and see what those systems are like for you. Now there's blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, there's a rear auto braking system as well, plus there's a reversing camera and parking sensors. On the base grade you get a surround view camera if you shop up to the top spec version, and there's 7 airbags fitted too. So you've got dual front side, a front center airbag to prevent head clashes in the event of a side impact, and curtain coverage for both rows of seats. So yeah, safe, but maybe not the most livable thing because of some of those safety things. JAC has hit the ground running when it comes to the ownership stuff, so there is a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty for this model. There's also 7 years of roadside assistance included when you buy your JAC ute, and there's a 7-year cap price servicing plan. Now your service intervals are every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, so yep, there's 7 years and 105,000 Ks of cap price servicing covered, and you'll see the average price per service on your screen now. Seems okay, I reckon. What do you think? The JAC T9 is a pretty compelling choice for those looking for a budget-friendly dual-cab 4x4 diesel ute. It's not too bad to drive, although some of those safety systems are a bit annoying. And look, I reckon there's better utes out there if you can spend more money, but if your budget is tight, it might be worth a look. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tell me in the comments what you think, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. It does help a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.